Well, hello. Today's movie is the 2025 Dutch movie Invasion. The islands of Curaçao and Aruba are invaded by the neighboring country of Veragua. The Dutch Marines rally to hold off the invaders. They have a prisoner, a former intelligence agent of Veragua that was arrested and the cause of the invasion. They managed to escape with him to a Dutch warship. The Dutch ambassador flees his embassy for some reason. The Dutch send a helicopter to pick him up. Only it gets shot down. A Marine gets the idea to parachute in from a Cessna to rescue them. He finds the survivors and leads them to the beach where they are to be picked up. Only the wimpy prime minister recalls the ship and leaves them high and dry. They do get picked up instead by some friendly refugees who give them a ride in their leaky boat. They then get rescued by the Marine's brother, who happened to find a submarine and conveniently knows where they are located. Everything is okay at the end as the US-led rebellion replaces the hostile Veragua regime. So this is a Dutch movie filmed in Aruba and Curaçao, and it's probably the newest movie I've ever done. It was released last year in 2025. It had limited theatrical release in the United States, very limited. And I watched the Blu-ray of it, and the Blu-ray does have an English English dubbing, so you don't have to read subtitles if you don't want to do that. And this was a movie that I was kind of interested in when I seen the trailers. I kind of thought it was going to be like the Dutch version of Red Dawn. And it kind of started out that way, with the Marines and trying to invade, fighting the invaders and that. But then it just kind of went off into some whole new weird area, It's there's this ambassador who, for some reason, decides to flee the embassy, and they have to rescue him, and Chopper gets shot down, and then this one guy who's afraid of heights overcomes his fear and comes in and rescues his buddies and the ambassador, and through all the little rigmarole. And there's also this kind of the intelligence office, former intelligence officer of Veragua, who was apparently arrested by the Dutch on the request of the Americans, and that's what triggered the invasion. And America apparently wasn't going to honor the NATO Article 5 clause for some reason, don't know why. And it just kind of meandered around in all this weird little, that went nowhere. And then, at the end, it just kind of, okay, the United States just decided to overthrow the government. Everything's fine, why this ambassador was important was never explained. Why this, intelligence agents they had arrested was never explained. They just kind of, the movie just kind of really went nowhere. I mean, the Veraguans, attack a beach full of tourists, which, strategically, I'm not sure what that was supposed to accomplish. I mean, forget the fact that, deliberately targeting unarmed civilians is a war crime. I guess they just wanted to, establish that they're the bad guys. And of course, they used a fictional country called Veragua, when in reality it was meant to symbolize Venezuela, which is the real country that sits off the coast of Aruba and Curacao, which are two Dutch colonies yet and are still part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And yeah, that for some reason they had to make up a phony country, like they were afraid what the Venezuelans would get offended and actually invade for real. And interesting as I do this review, I watched this movie Christmas Day 2025, and a little over 3 months later, the situation in that part of the world is completely different. And it actually probably dates this movie now. It's fun way the world works there. But this is it was a disappointing movie. I hoped for a lot more, but it just seemed to meander on and really go nowhere, and the plot threads don't really make sense and just kind of disappeared. And why did this ambassador leave when he could have just stayed there and maybe saved some people's lives? And they didn't have to do a damn thing. All they had to do was just wait for the U.S. government to overthrow the regime, and that was it. That's just It's a movie that I thought had some great potential. I think the idea was very sound. It was just poorly executed. Oh well, I wanted to try it out, and I did. And, I'm not, I have no regrets against that. I thought, hey, give it a try. It didn't pan out as I wanted it, so if you want to check it out, you can. I mean, it's available on Blu-ray and DVD and that. And I think it streams or something. So, otherwise, I don't have any high recommendations for this. And if you stuck with me this long, I thank you. You're a unique individual.